Hey y'all, Samantha, Sam I am, Swirls and Swags, Decor, welcome. Today we are working on a half and half college football door wreath, and we are only using mesh and ribbon and some mesh tubing. There's no sign or nothing of that sort. Customer didn't really want one, and if you are using any kind of sign, make sure that you have the rights to use one. Okay, so we are using a 14-inch Dollar Tree wire wreath frame, and I am using 6 of each color, gold and red, for my ties around the base, and I have the glittery metallic looking pipe cleaners, and they're a little thinner than your basic pipe cleaner or Chenille stems, so I use 2. I also place them at the crossbar on the top and then in the center between the crossbars on the bottom, and I'm using rows 1 and 2 together at the top and 3 and 4 at the bottom in the center. So 6 on one side and 6 on the other for a total of 12 pipe cleaners. Then we're going to be doing our mesh. Okay, so I'm using one color on the red side, which is a gray. So our team colors are red, silver, and black. So I'm going around my base with a silvery gray color first, and I'm just doing a curl method, curling each side. I use a clothespin to hold one side of the curl while I curl the other side and gather it in the center. They're usually around 14-ish inch long, and so that's how I do that. And then on the on the gold side, there's gold and blue. So on the base I'm using gold, and then I'm going to be using gold and blue on the top. I had to make sure my colors were right. And so on the other side where it's red, I went around with a gray, and then I'm going to go on top with red and black curls. So right there you see me slide my glass on top of my cutting mat. I use a tempered piece of glass, and I use my wood burner. You also see a mashed potato smasher. That is a perfect tool. I bent the prongs just a little bit to hold my wood burner, because the little wire piece that they send with the wood burner is not really that safe whatsoever. So that's what I do for safety. If you have children or animals, please be very careful. They are very hot if you're not familiar. And so you don't have to use a wood burner by no means. I just prefer it every now and then depending on what I'm making. So again, you can just cut them as you normally would with your rotary cutter. And again, these are around 14-ish inch long. So the smaller pieces that I'm adding on the top, just the plain curls, they're probably around 10 to 12. I like 12-inch long pieces when I'm just making a plain curl. So I'm just curling up each one to go on top of that other curl under the bottom in the twist. Some people don't open their twist, they add to the top. It depends how big or tight that you twist that other one. If your twists are really big, or you twist it a lot of times and then you try to add on top of it, whether it be another piece of mesh or a ribbon, it flops. It's because you've twisted it too many times. You really should only twist about twice, maybe 3, but you also need to be pushing down and twisting when you do it, and that creates your tighter, snugger fit, and it doesn't flop around or seem loose. So we'll carry on with these other pieces. Okay, here next we're going to be cutting our ribbon tails. You can cut them at any length you really want. I use around 12 inch. If you go 14, you can. It really depends if you're wanting to showcase your ribbon or your mesh. In this case, it's kind of a little bit of both because this is such a very pretty wreath when we get done. So I like a 12-inch tail, but either or. And then I cut a dovetail, which means when you fold your ribbon, you cut from the fold to the tip where the wire is at an angle, and that creates your dovetail. If it's a 1.5, a lot of times I just cut a straight angle. Or if it's a ribbon that frays, I'll cut it straight across and fold it a time or two so you don't see no fray and it looks very nice. So those are your different options when it comes to your ribbon tails and how to cut them. I also like adding mesh tubing to the top of my ribbons when I'm putting them in. Mesh tubing is elastic material. It's also mesh, it frays, so you want to be sure you cut straight and try not to fool with it too much when you put it in your design. So I make like a shoe loop, like a lace tie your shoe loop bow loop. So I make 2 loops and I cut it, but you want to leave it loose in your hand. If you pull it tight, then when you cut it, it's going to shrink because it's elastic. Okay, I'm running out of room to talk. Y'all, I'm a southerner. I'm in Alabama. I love to talk. Anyway, here toward the next clip or 3, you're going to see me hold my scissors up. They've got a wire on the end of them, and it comes from your ribbon. Every time you cut ribbon, there's a little pieces of wire that go missing out of that ribbon. I don't know how ribbon has any wire left when we get done cutting, but it does. But my scissors are magnetized, and so I pick it up off my desk. My desk is black, so I see it shiny, and I have had a piece of wire work through a Nike flip-flop type shoe. Very, very sharp. So if you have children and animals, please, be careful with those little cuts of metal that land all over your place, the desk, the floors, and you really don't know, or you might not have noticed. I use a magnet and I go around my floors. So there's that little tip. Okay, I'm fixing to be adding in this gold ribbon, and it kind of reminds me of a netted ribbon, although this one's not. It's kind of sheer with a pattern on top. But if you are using a netted ribbon and you're not really sure how to cut, it's sort of like cutting mesh. You want to cut it between the 2 window panes, if you will. You want to cut it on the line straight across. That gives it a neat finished look, and so thought I would throw that in there just in case you might be using a ribbon such as. So they're fun to use, especially in like a seaside or something oceany theme. For a college football design, this is a very elegant design. It turned out so pretty. I think the colors really worked, even though they're school teams, but it just came together and looks so great. Tell me what you think in the comments below. If you have any questions, you can drop those below as well. I appreciate everybody watching, and have a lovely afternoon, y'all. We're gonna wrap it up here. And of course, the last thing we're going to do is check all our ribbons, make sure that everything's fluffed out nicely, and everything's in place, everything's tight, snug, and pretty. So I appreciate y'all watching. Please hit that like and subscribe below. I do greatly appreciate all that. Have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you so much for watching.